Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where I have Anne Marie Anderson in the house. You already know a little bit about her. She wrote the book Cultivating Audacity. And I'm going to tell you, this woman has built a life beyond the no in your life. And I can't wait to dive in. Welcome to the show, Anne Marie. You've got a fascinating story.
Thank you, Dana.
Fascinating.
I'm excited for our
Fascinating.
conversation.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, let's dive right in. What got you into sports broadcasting?
So I'm the youngest of five with four older brothers. So there's
Wow.
your start, right? I never got to control the television growing up. So I watched a lot of sports and I knew I wanted to be a journalist. My brothers always say it's a combination of the two things I loved the most as a kid because I loved sports. And according
Yeah.
to my older brothers, I was a world-class tattletale. So, like, reporting about sports is kind of the combination of my childhood. I'll buy that. I'll say that
Yes.
works.
I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, that wow. I'm not the youngest of five, but I have three brothers, but I am second. Well, we're kind of Irish twins, my youngest brother and I. So that's kind of interesting. Similar stories. Did you love sports? I mean, like playing them? Not just watching
Yes.
them, but so you played sports too.
Yeah, because I just wanted to be with my brothers. So
Yeah.
I played on whatever teams they were on
Yep.
until there were teams for girls.
Yep. Oh, I absolutely
That's
can
how
tell.
we socialize. Like that, we talk about connections all the time and
Yeah.
interconnections with
Yeah.
family. Like that's how my family
Yeah.
connected. That was our
Yeah.
intimacy. It was great.
Yeah. Super. I love that. But you went on to be an announcer for the Super Bowl. You won three Emmys. Let's talk about that. How did you get there?
Well, so I was a producer. I want to just make
Yeah.
sure I'm not saying I
Yeah,
was announcing the Super
yeah.
Bowl.
Let's
Yeah.
back up. Yeah,
Yeah, because I
you
was a
produced.
producer first and then went on camera. So I started at ESPN in a 6-month temporary job, working 6 at night to 3 in the morning, 6 days a week with Mondays off for, 2 cents.
Wow.
And that's the way we do it. And at the end of
Yeah.
those 6 months, they hired me full time. And
Mhm.
I just did what, we all do in our lives to just chip away at it over and over again and kind of work my way up the rankings until I started to feel a little bit of dissatisfaction. Like, and I'm really good, Dana, now at tuning into when I
Mm,
don't feel happy and fulfilled. And it
mm.
was a great job, but I felt like I needed a new challenge and I wanted to try being in front of the camera. And that was a whole new set of challenges. So 10 years into my producing career at ESPN, I started to make the move in front of the camera,
Wow. And how did that feel?
like starting over, like
Yeah.
going all the way back to kindergarten.
Oh, yeah.
I was so frustrated with myself before my first time ever on air. I was like, why? Why did I do this? I'm so uncomfortable and I had a
Mm.
great job and a great life. Like, why did I do this? But that discomfort is what I have kind of learned over the decades to sit in and embrace. And so
Where
I've been
all that
trying
growth
it
is,
more.
where all that exponential growth is, where we
Yeah.
sit in the uncomfortable. Like, why did I do this? What was I thinking? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had those moments a lot. So the lessons behind the scene, maybe pull the curtain back on what it felt like when you went in front of the camera. What was it like? Were you interviewing? Were you a
Sure.
natural? Did you struggle?
Yeah. It was horrible. I my first time I was supposed to be, I got a job I was still at ESPN as a producer. And I got an offer to be a sideline reporter in like a little regional arm of ESPN. And
Mhm.
my boss said, no, my producing boss said, no, you can either do that or continue producing our Super Bowl coverage, Olympic Games, all of that, thinking for sure I would go with the safety, zone. But I just
Yeah.
knew I wanted to try
Agree.
something. So I said, forget it. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And my boss said, well, that's crazy. You can do both. Because there's only a little bit of on-camera work. So right then I had my first like, all right, I pushed back, not a bluff, but I end up being able to do both. So my first time on air was supposed to be in a regional network, but somebody got sick and somebody filled in and all of this. And so I ended up my first time ever on air was on ESPN2, which was in 78 million homes at the time, opening weekend of college football as a sideline reporter.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
I was
daunting.
paralyzed, just absolutely like sobbing outside the stadium before I went on. Just what you want, like from your
Yeah.
reporter.
Yeah.
Just so fearful, just completely drowning in fear that I was going to be so bad at this that I would not only lose my opportunities on air, but that I'd lose my producing job too, because who's going to listen to me, once they see I can't do their job. So it was
Right.
it was tough to get through that first day.
And how did you get through that first day? Was it good? Did you
No, it
like,
wasn't good, right?
it
Like
wasn't
who's good their first time on air? So
good? Yeah.
I got through it And that's
Yeah.
the right term. And then I realized I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I didn't swear on air. Like there's all those things that are like little
Oh,
victories
yeah. All
in
those
there.
things. Yeah. All those things. Yeah.
And I survived, but yeah, it was bad, right? I mean, I'm staring at the camera and I am repeating my words very carefully.
Yeah.
But I got up the next week and did it again. And the only thing that was better about the next week was that it wasn't the first time. You know, like you just
Yeah.
keep going and getting better in the 15th time and the 30th time. But it's the matter of that practice of getting up. I always say, though, when I'm speaking or I'm teaching, it helps that I had a contract, right? Because if I didn't
Mm.
have a contract, would I have gotten up the second time? It would have been harder.
Ah.
But since
Ah,
I had a
so
signed contract, I had to.
that commitment, that
Yeah.
commitment. Ah, interesting. So how long did you do that before you wrote the book, Cultivating
Oh
Audacity?
gosh,
What
that
kind
was
of
like
time span are we looking at?
sure. It's been 36 years in television. First 10 were producing only, and then I went on camera. So that's what 25 years or so.
Wow. And
Yeah,
then you went on to I'm gonna let the story unfold. And then you went on to
right.
writing the book? Or what, do you have an awakening? What happened to make you make the shift? Like, I'm now gonna write a book about Audacity, about
Well, so my career kept unfolding that way. So it was a little bit of sideline reporting. And
Mm,
then I wanted to move. I realized my quality of life wasn't great at
mm,
ESPN. I loved the job, loved the people, but didn't like living in Connecticut and shoveling snow. So I pushed to
mm,
be LA bureau producer
mm.
for Sports Center. And my boss said no. And I gave my notice, and drove cross country. And long story of that short is by the time I drove cross country, they hired me back on a contract that was double my salary. So
Wow.
it was like I started to take note throughout my career of these audacious moments because audacity is
Yeah,
what, right? It's taking bold risks. That's
yeah,
simply what audacity is, the willingness to take bold risks. It's
yeah.
nothing more than that. And so I started to learn when I was taking these risks, they were paying off because of my intention. It
Mm.
wasn't for anything else, for anyone else. It wasn't for money. None of my moves were. They were for me to feel more challenged and to grow. And so I realized every time I made a decision in line with that, it paid off. So I just kept doing that. I did the same thing to San
What
Francisco.
prepared you to be, audacious like that? So what was that? You were moving to did you say you moved to San Francisco?
So I kept doing it was my
Yeah, you
point. I
kept
did
doing
San Francisco, the same thing, and then to Colorado. Um, what made me audacious? What made me want to do that? Is that what
Well,
you're
no,
asking?
well, I guess what I'm asking is a lot of people rub up against that move where they know it's not a good fit, but they're terrified. And
Yeah,
that's why we call it the terror barrier. They're terrified to make that new move. But you did it over and over and over again. What came up in you that you had to move through? What was that like to have to move through and make that decision, not knowing? And you can see that I always say, this is what I teach out there on the playing field is we got to be on this playing field over here where we don't know the outcome. And you
right,
kept landing there and doing it over and over again without knowing what was in
right,
store for you.
right. I always say the success with Audacity is in the action, not in the outcome. So it's
Mm,
completely in line with what you have. Like it's never been attached to the outcome. I was shy, growing up and very quiet. What happened to make me kind of live more audaciously was a tragedy at work where one of my
mm,
colleagues passed away on the Sports Center newsroom floor at
mm.
37 years old, newly married, just starting his dream job.
Wow.
And I performed CPR on him along with one of my colleagues unsuccessfully. And he passed away. And I remember thinking, I was 22 or 23 at the time, if you
Yeah.
can be 37 and newly married and super fit and starting your dream job and have it all ripped away,
Yeah.
then I'm never going to wait for anything again. And I know we've all heard that, but like when you see it right there, it just changed something in me.
Yeah.
And I started traveling immediately and started swinging for the fences, just knowing that whatever the outcome was, Dana, that's the key, right? I always tell people for Odessa, the key is knowing it's not about getting what you want. It's about knowing you'll be okay with whatever the outcome is. And then you can work from there. So it's not failure, it's just data.
I love that. I love that. Let's talk more about that. I mean, I'm so fascinated by this process, people that just keep showing up without being attached to the outcome. I mean, because I
Mhm.
teach it all day long, but
Yeah,
it is one of the most challenging things for people to
yeah,
get past. They
right,
just don't trust. You have an enormous amount of trust in the unknown, not
right.
attached to anything. You just did it because, I mean, that's a big crisis. That's a big aha moment to have that
Yeah.
happen,
Yes.
and oftentimes that I think that sometimes we have those moments in our life where we're like, we're not ever going to stop or slow down or question because at any given moment, and I hear this a lot because this is just the world I live in where life is just snatched up just like that. There are no guarantees.
Yeah.
And so when you wrote the book, what was your main message for people to get out of it? What is the main message you want today for people to hear and get out of it?
I want people to understand that if you look into it, instead of looking away from it, you can figure out what's been in your way. So I was one of those that wanted to like, don't feel that fear. Don't worry about that. Like when somebody tells someone, don't be scared or overcome your fears. Well, how do you do that? Like fear is a really important part of the process. So in the book, I come across the four common barriers I see standing between people and the thing, whatever the thing is, the life they want to have, the career they want, the health, whatever it is. And
Mhm.
Dana, it always comes down to either fear, time, money, or your inner critic. Oftentimes a combination of the four,
Yeah.
any one of those. So I go through each one in the book, lots of stories, lots of different people from different aspects of life talking about their barriers. And I give some real practical tips to figuring out what's been in your way and then how to work with it. You're not going to shove it down. It's part of your story, part of your process. So how can you use that to lead you to your values, vision, and goals?
Yeah, I love that. I always say fear is like rocket fuel. I used to say I eat it like Wheaties for breakfast
Yeah.
because you're never not afraid when you're doing something new, and
Yeah.
it's just that word "new" that our I think our ego wants to protect us from. It's like, oh no, that's not very safe. It's new. We don't know how to protect you there, and
Yes.
so it's. I love that you've done it over and over and over again. So where are you at in your life now with this? Are you still living in this realm,
Oh.
or have you slowed down? Are you playing it safe?
Oh, right. Yeah. No, never safe. And it's as you're talking about like over and over again. That's why one of the concepts in the book is the front row. I say you need to have a front
Hmm.
row of people who are not trying to keep you safe. I would say the people that aren't in your front row, your mom and your best friend, they should not be in your front row because they want you to be
Mm,
safe. Your
yeah,
front row needs to be a carefully curated cadre of people, carefully curated cadre, that's a broadcaster for you,
yeah. I
uh,
like that though.
to, who are pushing forward, who are doing big things themselves, who are not attached to the outcome, who will check in on you and say, well, that didn't work. What's next? What's
Yeah,
happening now? And not interested in keeping you safe, but keeping your growth because it's really interesting and easy to listen to yes people all day, but then you're wondering, is this all there is?
yeah,
Why am I not? And then fill in the blank in whatever way you want it to be.
yeah. How many people should we have in the front row? I would agree with that 1,000%. What do you think? How many people should we have
I like it
questioning us?
small.
And you like it small, small
I like
circle.
it small, but several different front rows. I have a fitness front row. And if I don't show up for class, they're calling me and texting me. I have my
Mm,
broadcasting front row. I have my like career growth, my personal relationship. Those are the people I called, when my marriage broke up. Like there's lots of my parenting front row, which my ex-husband is a part of, along with, some other friends. So I have several different front rows in my life. And
mm,
here's the key to a really good front row. And I talk about this in the book, you have to tell them that they're in your front row. Literally those words, because now you're giving some significance to somebody
right.
else in your life
You're in my front row. Yeah,
and they're invested
yeah,
and you're connected. Hopefully it's not a one-way thing, right? You're giving
yeah,
back to them. But now you've got somebody out there knowing I'm trying to do big things. Because once it goes out, you know this better than anybody. Once it goes out in the universe, once you're saying it, things start to move. Even if you feel like you're not ready, the machine's going.
yeah. Oh, I love that. And I say you have to pick your people. I say you're my person to people that are my people. You're my
Mhm.
person, you're my person. But that has shifted lately and it's kind of unstabilizing. It's like
Oh,
I can see that I was playing it safe a little bit with
mhm.
some people that weren't challenging me. And I
Yeah.
was getting a little bit, well, it was a comfort zone. And I'm like, oh no, now is not the time to get comfortable with doing a launch or falling back because there's nobody pushing me. And as entrepreneurs, and when we were, my contract is with me as an entrepreneur. I get up
Right.
every morning at 3. There isn't anyone saying, "Hey, get up, Dana." I just have a passion and love for what I'm doing. But you really want people that are challenging you saying, "Hey, what does your business look like right now? What are you doing?
Yeah.
without having to be. I think this is why masterminds and things are so important out there for women to be part of, where they're being challenged and questioned and being supported. But I think that front row friends that know us intimately know where we're going to fall behind, or hey, are we getting enough fresh air or exercise or all the things, like you're working too hard or you're pushing too hard, or fall back and just breathe. I mean, just something simple, you know.
Yeah.
But I'd have to
Yeah.
say, I don't have a lot of those people in my life, but the ones I do have are so valuable to me.
Well, and it doesn't even just have to be friends either.
Yeah.
So, like when I wanted to write a book, when I decided that, I told some of my close friends,
Yeah.
but I also reached out to a few people who I knew tangentially. We had mutual friends. Reach out to
Right.
them through Instagram. Hey, I'm thinking about writing a book. Wonder if you can give me some feedback on the publisher you worked with and what you thought of them. And so sometimes your front row are people that are where you want to go, that
Yeah.
are willing to help you get there.
Your
And
mentors. Yeah.
so a few of them have been really kind and generous in saying, like, how's it going? When's
Yeah.
the launch? Which happened earlier this year.
Yeah.
So your front row isn't just your friends. It helps really open up your circle
Yeah.
when you think beyond your friend group and outside of your field. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be somebody in your field to be in your front row, your
Yeah,
professional front row.
absolutely. And I'm going to add a little bit more to that. I think that when we count on family or friends in our
Mhm.
front row or even second row, we have these expectations of
Yeah,
support and love, this unconditional, and we often don't get it.
right.
I found that when I launched a cauliflower pizza crust company, co-founded it years ago, and nobody supported it. They're like, "Who's gonna buy a cauliflower pizza crust?" And I'm
Yeah,
like, "Well, it's a billion-dollar industry now." I guess it was a good idea. I
yeah,
guess that
nice
was a
try.
good
Yeah,
idea. But, but yeah, had I listened to that, I would have, but I just had a knowing that I knew that it was what I wanted to do.
yeah,
But I could be really stubborn that way, which I have a feeling that your energy is similar. I might be growing up with brothers. I don't know, trying to keep up and
maybe.
wanting to be part of. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't. When is your birthday? Is it
November, late November.
late November? So that would be, let's see, I'm going past Scorpio. I'm
Yeah,
going
massage.
into, yeah, I'm going into Sag. I'm going
Huh?
into a Sagittarius. Well, there's the independent. There's the independent card right there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a life and mind of your own. That's crazy. Everyone that's listening to right now that listens to my podcast, they've heard me say over and over again, I call in Sagittarius like crazy. We've talked about it over, and I'm like, that did not surprise me, but nor did it probably surprise them just now. So, I'm reading some notes here that my team wrote, and they wrote a nice question. I like this. What makes a strong team, from locker rooms to boardrooms? What makes a strong team in your mind? You've been in both. How does that crossover work, and what makes a strong team? You've
Yes.
interviewed like crazy. You've produced. You've seen a lot.
Right. Right. And I've been in the boardrooms and locker rooms of some of the most successful coaches in sport, right? All
Yeah.
around the world. And those leaders all had audacity. That's part of the reason why I do the corporate work that I do, is
Yeah.
because that willingness to take bold risks. But here's the difference, not just
Yeah.
any risk, right? You have to discern reckless from worth it. So which risks are
Mm,
reckless and which are worth it, which are worth it. When you have a team that's going to function this way, it's about turning them from like these disengaged employees into invested teammates. And that means understanding for them, each one, what motivates them, what their strengths are. And it's what I call being a
mm,
shape shifting leader. The really good leaders, the really exceptional leaders who build fantastic cultures and innovation understand that each person has a different gift, and you have to free them up to be audacious, to take risks without worry of watching their back. And that's
mm,
the most important thing, is that they will take a risk and understand that you're not going to come down on them for failure because it's data, as I've talked about, to move you forward. And so
mm.
opening up that communication, and I've seen it in some really fantastic coaches.
What are your some of the favorite moments that you've experienced, and kind of that you turned into maybe even a life lesson?
In sports or just in life?
Maybe both. I don't know. I know that was broad, but I'm a
Yeah.
broad painter. I like whatever comes to mind, whatever energetically dropped in for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the first thing is the death of my colleague and friend was the first thing. I think about it all the time, still 30 years later.
Wow.
Um, and, just nothing is promised. And
Yeah.
then my favorite times are whenever I've been able to work with friends. I've been really blessed in that some of my very closest friends are my coworkers and my broadcasters. And so, I mean, Dana, this is not a bad job traveling around the world with your friend talking about sports. I leave
Yeah.
for Poland in a couple of days, and then China, and I just got back from Rio and Thailand, and I'm traveling with good friends. And that for
Mm.
me makes all of my good times. And in this particular assignment, I get to bring my kids if I want. So I had my son with me in Rio, I'll have my daughter with me in Poland and China, and be able to expose them to the world.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I absolutely love that. I mean, that's like living the dream. A
Yeah.
job you love, you're traveling with friends, like going where you want, even if they weren't handpicked, Poland, but it's still such an adventure.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and I love that because I wouldn't necessarily vacation in Poland
yeah.
and China. So I'll
Yeah.
go, but like we've also been to Amsterdam. I want to go back there. Been to
Yeah.
Brazil a number of times. Been to Turkey. Oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. So some of
Mm.
them are places where I would go for vacation, but I love going to the places where I may not, and then discovering that. I mean, Poland, I went last year, was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Wow. Any chance of slowing down? Or are you just speeding up, reinventing? Where are you at in this process?
I'm always changing. I always say I don't have FOMO, right? I don't have any fear of missing out. I do have a fear of staying the same. So
Mm.
everything is always evolving and changing. I love my television work. I hope never to give it up. But I
Mm.
also have my book and my speaking. And so it's a how can I be better in each? And we'll see
Yeah.
where it leads me because I'm happy where I am, but I know that I'm not going to be here forever. Just that's just not the way my life works.
I don't think it's the way anyone's life really works or
Yeah.
shouldn't. So with Audacity, because your book, it just over and over again, cultivating Audacity, how connected to authenticity do you see those linking up?
Oh, necessary. I mean, isn't it just performative otherwise?
Yeah.
If you'll be really in for a very rough ride if you are making risks because you think somebody else should, or you think it makes you look cool, or you want more money. I mean, that's a rough road. So your audacity is within yourself. So if you're not going to be authentic with yourself,
Yeah.
then there's
Yeah.
some real work to do. Like you're
Yeah.
not feeling good because I don't go out, and my friends who are trying to live their most audacious lives don't go out and be like, you know, what crazy risk can we take today just to be able to put on the gram that we took a
Yeah.
crazy risk? It is, hey, I'm going to try this opportunity to get rejected here. Huge.
Yeah.
Let's do that and see what happens.
I think
Let's
people
see what
don't they,
happens.
they may not paint it like that though. They may compete with somebody and not know that they're way out of their lane and
Yeah.
they've just stepped right out of their superpower, their authenticity, and being audacious in someone else's lane is like driving into a Mack truck. It's
Yeah.
like, stop, no, come back.
Yeah. Are you living their dream?
Yeah,
Like that's two people trying to live their dream
yeah.
then, or trying to live their life. It will never, the big thing I would say is internal, your intent is critical. Because if you're doing it
Mm.
because you should,
Mm.
you're in trouble. Even if you're making a career move, let's say because you want to spend more time with your family. If you're doing it because you should, or your family says you should, eventually you might get resentful or not very productive at work or whatever it is there. If you are making a move to spend more time with your family because you want to spend more time with your family, obviously your family is a beneficiary as well of
Right.
that. But that wasn't necessarily the driver and the intention. Do I want you to be selfish all day long and only do what you want? Obviously not. You're going to be isolated. But
Yeah.
that's where you start going through and assessing, here's my career and professional life, here's my health and wellness, here's my
Mm.
relationships and personal. What's actually, I have an assessment in the back of the book where you go through each one, a category, and see what's working for you and what's not. And then you focus on maybe what's not.
I like that. What's working the best in your life right now? If you had to put it on a scale, and what's not working the best?
Well,
If
that's
you,
such a great question because when I wrote the assessment, I took my own assessment immediately.
Mm.
And career and professional, going well.
Yeah.
Uh, Health and wellness, going well. Relationships, boom, when I did this. And I was like, I'm
Mm.
not putting enough time into cultivating my personal
Mm.
relationships with girlfriends. I'm not even talking about romantic relationships.
Yeah.
My relationships with my kids are great because I bring them with me and we're very close. But
Right.
when I wrote this book, I was like, I need to start putting more effort and intention into my relationships with friends and new friends. And
Yeah.
so I talk about the urgency fallacy, like urgent versus important. Well, once I decided it was important to me
Yeah.
to connect with my friends, then I carved out time from urgent, right? Because urgent can rule us all day long.
Oh, yeah.
So I can be with friends. And it's the same thing with writing a book,
Yeah.
TV, parenting, all of that,
Yeah.
speaking. covers everything, but it was important for me to write a book. So until I carved out time, intentionally turned off all phones, said, I'm going to write right now, it
Yeah.
would have never happened. Anything that's important moves you closer to your values, visions, and goals, but it's
Yeah.
never as easy as your urgent to-do list.
Yeah, and going back to having to do that check-in, that mirror work of, "Ooh, I've not prioritized this, and that's why I look around and I've not cultivated perhaps friends," or they're saying, "Hey, I'm not that important to you," or you yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny, I've had a wild couple of years with that too. It's like and then I realized I had to carve out the time.
you have
Okay,
to.
I had to carve out the time for the book launching this month. I mean, you've got to and that's what you do. You have to
Yeah.
reprioritize because you're right, the urgency and even when your kids are grown and gone, there's still there's always
Oh, yeah.
something urgent going on in your life. I think that if we live in that kind of fight or flight mode of urgency, we never really drop in and cultivate. And I think it protects us from the audacity of moving forward because
Yeah.
we stay in this big loop of
Yeah.
high energy, low energy, high energy, low energy, and you hear people cycle in and out of that all the time. It's
Yeah.
where you have gone, few go. I think what is statistically proven is people that make those decisions, those audacious decisions. I mean, this is what makes the best leaders, coaches in the world, and I think it is the top 8%. I just heard that I think on Ben Newman said that, and I'm like, oh yeah, not very many. I'll have to look
Yeah.
that statistically up again. Don't quote me on that, but I will look it back up and I'll put it in. But it's low. The people that are
Yeah.
making those moves and moving forward and don't make the move and then they get terrified and then
Right.
they run back to that safety, that safe.
Right. Urgent never ends. That's why
Yeah.
it's so safe
Yeah. Urgent
to
never
be in.
ends.
And if you're thinking, well, wait, is this thing that I'm thinking of urgent or important? Well, urgent is a reaction to something else. They send you an email, a text, some report is due. You're reacting to something else.
Yeah.
Urgent, typically, it's that you can cross it off your list, and it gives
Yeah.
a great deal of satisfaction. Things that are important often take more time, more contemplation, and they're not as satisfying
Mm,
originally as playing the long game. So
mm.
there's that balance of both that you have to have every day.
I like that, playing the long game. Cultivating relationships is definitely playing the long game.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. So what feels like love in your life right now?
What feels like love? The time with my kids feels like love, being able to travel with them because now they see deeper issues. My son, when he was with me in Rio, that's when Iran was first bombed and the Iranian team
Mm,
was there with us. And so just being
wow,
able to see the humanity of it and that team trying to reach their families, those
right.
kinds of connections feels like love in my life. And now, since I have put more intention in with my friends, I was
Mhm.
just thinking last night how much lighter I
Yeah.
feel. Like I
Mm,
feel I've been thinking about it and trying to do it, be more connected for the last 6 months or so. But I was thinking, oh, I do feel so much lighter and connected now because I'm sharing myself with people where I would,
yeah,
close off.
yeah,
And I'm open to receiving from them and just sitting with them in their
yeah,
discomfort. I've got some friends who are going through some really hard stuff. Just sitting with them, not fixing it because I can't, but sitting
right.
with them.
Oh, they say that we live 30% longer by sharing. They said vent, and I'm like, I don't like that word vent, but sharing our stories with
Oh,
friends.
interesting.
Yeah, I love I'm such a statistic junkie. I just love looking at how that can move people forward. I mean, if it takes that to move you forward, you want to live longer. Hey, start engaging and interacting and trusting, being more vulnerable. I think vulnerability plays a huge part in having
Yeah.
girlfriends and having a lot of masculine energy and this life force energy that you need to move forward in these audacious moves
Yeah.
and being able to receive in the softer side, you're like, yeah, that's not as cultivated. And I got to
Yeah.
hold space there. And that takes a willingness to be vulnerable, which I can definitely see when we feel lighter. It's like, oh yeah, I feel
Yeah.
softer too. You know,
Yeah. And I've got friends who are exactly the opposite.
yeah,
One in particular who's like trying to get her career going, but she's
yeah,
got connections all the time. And I'm like, none of it's wrong or right.
yeah,
It's just about finding what feels right. That's why I call it a reevaluation loop. I'm constantly doing it. But as soon as I start to feel a little dissatisfaction, I'm like, okay, well, what's that about? What are you dissatisfied with? Is it
yeah.
the travel too much? Is it the actual content of the work? Is it the not being connected? And so that reevaluation loop helps me a lot, just constantly rebalance.
Do you write it out? Are you a big,
Yeah,
yeah? So you write it
yeah,
out, journal, and Yeah, I love that. Self-evaluation is so huge because
Yeah.
if we don't do it, our blinders are just on and
Yeah. No, and it's
I
an
love
actual
that.
quiz the way I did it with points, so you can kind of
I can't wait to take that. I'm gonna take
see.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually because I just did the recording for audiobook for Audible, Spotify, and all of that.
Oh,
So I'm
wonderful.
putting it up on my website because obviously it's hard to, when you're reading a book, to have people take the assessment.
Yeah.
So people can get the first chapter of my book free on my website, and then you can also get that.
Good. I was just gonna ask you, where can people find you? We know what you're doing right now. How can they find your book? How can they find you? Where do you hang out? Is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Obviously it's planes, it sounds like, but where can they connect with you? We've been trying to connect for a long time.
Yeah, thank you, Dana. Yeah, I'm on Instagram a lot at Anne Marie Anderson TB.
Mhm.
Also on LinkedIn, you'll find me, and you can always reach me through my website, annemarieanderson.com. There's an
And
E on
where,
the end of Anne.
yeah, and where can they find your book right now?
Anywhere that you buy your books, you can get it online from anywhere you want or in bookstores.
And
Yeah.
now they can hear it. Now they can hear
And
it
now
on.
you can hear it. It'll be
I
released this
love
weekend.
it. All right. Anne Marie Anderson in the house, the book Cultivating Audacity. Wow. I'm going to tell you, you've got superhero energy. It's so funny because I pulled something up and this is just energetically what I was feeling before you came on. I thought, what is the name of that superhero syndrome? I was just kind of sitting in your energy on how you do things because that's what I do. And it's called hysterical strength. There's some people that have this enormous ability to overcome. And I mean, you see
Uh-huh.
them lift cars, fight off bulldogs. I mean, I've done
Yeah.
several of those things. And
Yeah.
I thought, what is the name of that? I didn't even know there was a name. It's called
Hysterical strength.
hysterical strength. And I thought, I'm feeling some energy coming off of her of this kind of strength.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah,
Hysterical strength. I love the
yeah,
term.
and I asked Chat GPT, which I don't do very much because I'm not a big AI person. I just don't like leaning in and asking them, but I needed to know, was there a name for this? Because I
Right.
felt like you had a lot of not masculine energy, but strength, internal
Yeah.
strength, and not just because of the book, but yeah, it's while not a formal diagnosis or syndrome, it captures the idea of an extraordinary response to stress or crisis that taps into a person's adrenaline with great reverence and grounding. You just in any given situation, you're able to think clearly, probably like you were in your 20s when you
Yeah.
lost your
Uh-huh.
dear friend. You were
Mhm.
able to do at 22 to be able to do CPR is a very big move, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Hysterical strength. I love it because that's true. Like when there was a live shot, when something was going to, like, I like being in those situations
yeah,
because I trust myself there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I kind of felt that, and just such a great. I had so much fun talking to you today. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you for
coming on the
having me.
show. And everyone, you can find her out there on she's hanging out on Instagram. You can find her book on her website. We'll have all the links for you. Thank you, Emery, for joining us today. And
Thanks for
everyone,
having me.
until next time.
Take
Bye for
care.
now.